Yeah, one day. This is along with you think, right, following resolutions, and anything other than to say that we. That was considered happened at town meeting. We got authorized to borrow money, but
We got authorized for money, I've already submitted that, I think we just essentially have to choose which option, which we know going. So that goes going to be,
Is the microphone not working? Because I can't hear you guys at all. That's funny. Nice one.
hear me, Tammy?
let's see, what are we using for audio?
And see, now I can hear Karina now that you're back by the computer.
This one right here?
Yeah, no. No, no, that's video. Go to audio.
I don't like. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Can you hear us now, Tammy?
Well, I could hear you. OJ say
Oh, no,
something.
I can't hear. Oh, maybe I did the wrong one, so. All right, how about now?
I could hear you near the computer, but I couldn't hear you near the microphone. So say something now while you're over there.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you a little better. Yes.
It's on. That's it. That's.
Yeah. No, I think you.
Is that any better?
A little bit. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, well. I'll adjust.
Okay, so we want for the Union Bank, we want the permanent financing as the 4.6. Yeah, for the fixed for 10 years with the option to date.
Yeah.
So that's loan number one.
That is,
Well, it's loan number one.
Yep.
But then if you go to the next page.
Yep.
There's option one.
Right.
And option two. Go back to this page. So this is option one, maturity at 10 years, and then option two is 19 years. At a higher fixed rate.
right, which we have to take. So she didn't really break, so when she revised it, she didn't break it down to like option one, option two, but so option, the both options on the first page right now are with the balloon payment, which we're not allowed.
We're not allowed to do that.
So we have to do
Right.
then option number two, essentially, where it says permanent financing on police station option one. Even though it says with balloon maturity of 10 years. In her email, she expressed to me that the rate would be fixed for the first 10 years at the 4.6, and at the end of 10 years, the interest rate would convert to 4.86 for the remaining 9 years on the loan. Which isn't really
That's fine.
That's not how it's written on this, now that I'm looking at it. Right?
It says 4.6 fixed for 10 years with an option available at the date of the rate change and will be based on negotiated market rate at the time. But then it says the term is just 10 years. It doesn't-
Right, because it's only gonna be fixed for that 10 years.
Right, but we need a 19
Right,
So option 2 gives us the 4.86 fixed at 19 years,
so
an annual payment of 157.9.
we don't want the 486, we want that for the remaining 10 years, so that wouldn't be it wouldn't be a 19-year term.
Okay,
In her email, she said, well, I don't know if you want to start the meeting or if you want me to, it said, thank you for the
All right.
explanation on the balloon. I apologize for the confusion. Instead of loan maturing or ballooning at 10 years, we could do the 10-year fixed rate that I provided at 4.6. And at the end of the 10 years, the interest rate would convert to 4.86, the 19-year fixed rate term. Since the rate would be fixed after the first 10 years, there's no cap is needed. Principal payments are going to remain the same throughout the whole term of the loan. Therefore, would only be adjustments on the accrued interest. No need to re-amortize it after the interest rate adjustment. Or the other option is just to do the 4.86 for the whole 19 years, and then there is no prepayment penalty. Well,
yeah, because
that might be easy.
Wait, did you say you haven't started the meeting yet?
we haven't started the meeting, so let's do that.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
What's that?
We can't even hear you.
That's a good idea.
I'm gonna start the meeting.
meeting to order.
All right, I will call the meeting to order. First order of business is the minutes from June 19th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the 19th as presented.
Second that motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All
Were
right.
they non-public for that one or not?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the non-public meeting minutes as presented.
Second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, there's those two.
We also have meeting minutes from the 26th.
26th, I have.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the 26th as presented.
Second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Non-public from that one as well.
We do?
I'll make a motion to approve the non-public meeting minutes of the 26th as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Super. All right, next thing on the agenda is a drinking water sustainability grant from the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. We're proposing to enter into a grant receipt in the drinking water sustainability grant agreement with the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services to fund a drinking water improvement project. The town of Lincoln further up to authorize Karina Park, town manager, to execute any documents which may be necessary to effectuate this grant. This is $50,000 and it's to be used, we're gonna use it for the construction of the water tank.
For planning, for engineering. purpose.
Engineering,
Yes.
but towards the water tank. So this is actually the second grant that we've got that we're putting
Towards the water.
towards the water tank.
When we initially found out that we were approved for this grant, I think we were thinking of using it towards the NEPA review process. And that's how we originally based our grant application for, is to help us hire third parties to do the NEPA review. But then when we were informed by the Forest Service that they were well along in the review process, Sam from Weston Sampson revised the scope of it to be put towards planning and engineering for the water.
Chip village, okay,
Yeah.
good. So, is there any public comment on the $50,000 grant? Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, Jake, can you tell me how much South Peak's contributing to the tank?
2, is it?
We have a line of credit or a
What's-
letter of credit in, I think it, yeah, I want to say 1.2, 1.3.
1.3 is what I
Yeah.
thought it was.
Yeah.
Is it, so there's a line of credit for 1.3?
Right, basically, the
Letter of credit.
letter of credit,
Yeah.
right, that they've deposited with us for that amount.
And do we have a, do we have a total cost of the tank yet? Has that been estimated?
No,
Paul, the 1.3 is based on what it would have cost the original developer, Centex, back in 2006, I believe, to build that tank as originally designed. We've upped the design to a larger tank, or we're going to up the capacity
right,
to a larger, so therefore he's putting in what was his fair share back then.
well, no, it's his fair share of what was designed back then,
Right, back then.
but it's
Oh, Line back then.
current cost to build the 2006 design tank. Is
Right.
what he,
Right, but we're also. The tank is bigger, but if he was going to have to build his own tank, he would pay the total cost of it.
A smaller one.
A smaller one, correct?
a small, at a lower elevation with therefore less piping, less construction costs, less,
I don't know about piping, but I mean,
well, I mean, the pipe,
anyway,
anyway.
no, I'm not looking to get into the details. The only thing I want to know is, do you have an estimate of what the cost is yet? From the engineers as to build the tank as design, or has it been designed? And do you have an
Hasn't been-
estimate?
It hasn't been located.
It hasn't been located, but has the tank been designed? I mean,
No, you look,
usually the engineers have an idea of what kind of a tank they're gonna put in and what the costs are, so you don't have any estimates or anything,
we do not.
okay? All right, thank you.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the drinking water sustainability grant in the amount of $50,000 from New Hampshire DES, and further to authorize Karina Park to execute any documents related to effectuating this grant agreement.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll give that back to you, just in case that's. Yeah. All right, we're gonna go into the town manager's report, but can we go right to the Union Bank
Yeah,
thing?
go right to the Union Bank.
So Union Bank got back to us because we're not allowed to have a balloon payment. So instead of the loan maturing or having balloon at 10 years, we could do the 10-year fixed rate that I provided at 4.6%. And at the end of 10 years, the interest rate will convert to 4.86, which is the 19-year fixed rate. Since the rate would be fixed after the first 10 years, since the rate would be fixed after the first 10 years, at the 4.86 at the higher amount, a cap is not needed. The principal payments are going to remain the same throughout the whole term of the loan, therefore it will only be the adjustment on the accrued interest and no need to amortize it after the interest rate adjustment. Or the other option is the 4.86 for the entire 19 years. So given those two written explanations, I would highly prefer the fixed rate for 10 years at the lower amount.
Right.
And take our chances that instead of paying a higher rate for 10 years, that in 10 years, that loan interest rate would be hopefully lower, or at least the same, or if it was higher, it would not be higher than what we would have been charged over the previous 10 years. 8.6 instead of 4.6.
Right.
So
I did, and I also did confirm with them, you'll see in her last sentence, there is no prepayment penalty. So we want to just.
And I read
ensure-
that.
Yeah.
I
so
read that.
hopefully, like you said, interest rates are either lower or stable at that time.
All right, the only thing is I agree, I want to vote for.
I think
first
we
option.
hold off on signing any proposal and make sure that the proposal reads as the.
As the email does,
Correct,
because
yeah.
this just doesn't, this says 4.6 for 10 years,
Mhm.
which we agreed on, with an option available at the date of the rate change. And will be based upon negotiated market rate at the time. The option doesn't specify
The 4.86.
19 year or 9 more years. It doesn't specify the 4.86. And to me, this would be rejected by bond counsel if they've already told us you can't have a balloon.
Sure.
Because it's not specified. So can we make the motion to do the 10 years at 4.6%? That will convert to 4.86% at the end of 10 years for the remainder of a 19-year total loan. If we say that, then if she writes that into this contract, it's been approved.
Agreed.
Okay, so I will make that motion.
I'll second that.
Are
Can I
we
ask a
good?
question before
Yeah.
you do that? For the second 10 years where there's no prepayment penalty, we could refinance anyway. It wouldn't have to be at the 4.89, correct?
That is
That
correct.
is correct, yes.
Okay, thank
Right.
you.
The 4.86 is just the rate if we continue to go forward.
Default, right.
And if there's no prepayment penalty, the assumption would be that we would renegotiate. I mean, they're gonna want to keep the loan, they'll negotiate it to whatever the market rate is.
Right.
They just gotta put something in here to cover us from this, that we can't have a balloon payment.
We can, right.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
I have a question. Are you planning on taking out this bond before you even go out to bid? Is that the plan?
yes and no. We're doing. We're doing 2 loans for the police station and 2 loans for the weekly water main. The first loan is a construction loan. So as we need money to pay bills, we'll take out money from a construction loan and not before. And then, once we've gone through that, then that converts to the full loan amount at the full term. Now, let's say for the water bond, we're authorized to borrow 2.2 million. Let's say it comes in at 2.1, and at the end of the construction loan, all we've borrowed is 2.1. We can just amortize and pay off the 2.1.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Yep.
I just want to make sure that you weren't going to take out the full amount if you didn't need to.
Nope.
Thank you.
So my motion is to do the 4.6 for 10 years. And then have it convert to 4.86 at the end of 10 years for the remaining 9 years.
Second.
Perfect.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. If she can write that into the,
Right, I'll make sure that we
Contract
get
so
a
that it's
new
very
proposal that's clear.
and I'll give that back to you too. Okay, now we move on to town manager, in any order you want to.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm gonna go right down the list. So the next thing on the item is the local hazard mitigation plan update. The town received a grant for that in 2019 to complete that, but then COVID hit and everything was put on hold. So the plan is actually completed and submitted to the state, but the state has a backlog of years of approval. So they have offered an extension to everyone that's kind of in the queue to get approval. We've already been reimbursed for all but $300 of it. The total grant was $7,500. We've received $7,200. We're just waiting for that last $300 once the state signs off on it. So, I just need the board's blessing to essentially accept the extension to the 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Mm,
Any, discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
aye.
That was easy.
Easy, that one's
Do
easy.
some more easy ones.
Okay.
Only easy ones.
We received notice from Primex of some changes to our coverage for the 23-24 year. They go on a fiscal year. It starts July 1. In short, they're all beneficial to the municipalities. They've expanded coverage limits in both their liability and their property coverages. I included a printout of what those changes were. Like I said, in short, they're all beneficial to the town. They've upped their limits. It's a better deal for us. So more of an FYI, but just so you all know.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that they didn't. Was there a rate increase that went along with that?
Well, we got a big rate increase last year.
I'm gonna say. I thought
Yeah,
it was-
so we'll see this fall when they start putting proposals together for the new year.
New year, because is that a July?
That's a July, correct.
I mean,
We've already,
we just started the new one.
correct.
And they've upgraded I was just surprised. I mean, every one of those that I read through, it's like, oh, the benefit.
It's a benefit, right? That's right.
And I could go like this.
When I got the email, I was scared. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
no, it's right. What's coming out? What are they cutting? But no, everything worked in the municipality's favor, so.
Super.
Pemigewasset Condo Association in Black Mountain Road. We received a letter from the homeowners association, the Pemi Condo Association, regarding the drainage issues on Black Mountain Road. This is something that we've discussed in the past. We discussed it at CIP last week. We know it's an ongoing issue with the New Hampshire Electric Co-op's lines and our inability to pave and do work because of their location. Nate got on the horn with them again 2 weeks ago and essentially said, what is happening here? And if we were going to be delayed any further, that we would have to look into some legal action. That seemed to ring a bell at the co-op. They met Nate out there last week. They're supposedly starting work today, tomorrow, this week out there to relocate their utility lines and whatever else they need to. I think there's a box that they have to move as well. So that should be happening now or very shortly if it didn't start today. Nate said today, but I'm gonna say this week, just in case they didn't show up. I wasn't on site, so.
I didn't see any action there today, but there are fresh markings on the roadway. I did talk to Nate. He said he's expecting it to start this week.
So hopefully, fingers crossed, I know it's been a long time coming, but that issue will hopefully be resolved shortly. If we can hold on to the co-op's word again.
It's been a frustrating process. I mean, we would basically have the same conversation a year ago.
I think it's been multiple years of, as I've been told, so. But again, we're hoping to get some traction. If not, we may need to,
At least draft a legal letter.
at least draft a letter,
Filing a
right, yeah,
lawsuit, but,
agreed, right.
If it doesn't happen this week, can you shoot forward an email?
Sure.
And we might convene a meeting just to authorize you to send a letter.
Have Jason,
Have
Yeah.
Jason draft a letter to send to the co-op.
no problem.
Okay.
Our lease agreement with Loon Mountain for the radio repeater site is up at the end of this month. It's a 2-year lease agreement. That is something that Loon, I've been told Loon usually drafts, is that correct? So we haven't seen it yet. I hope to see it for the next meeting. If not, I'll shoot either Brian or someone in his office an email just to remind them that it's due up, and so we can hopefully re-enter into that.
Yep.
We are paying our $60 a month, so I imagine they would let us continue that, so. Ragnar Road Reach the Beach race. So about a month and a half ago, we were contacted by the folks at Reach the Beach race to travel throughout the town of Lincoln or through the town of Lincoln to do their 200-mile road race. They started at Tash Mountain, they go all the way down to Hampton Beach. It's a relay race. There's multiple teams. There's about 300 runners. We initially had some major concerns with it. They are proposing to do it on the Friday of Highland Games. The original proposal was that they were going to stop at the flume, take the bike path down. They were going to come down Route 3. They were going to go down Connector Road. They were going to go in the back of the Hobo, through the Hobo, and then out onto 112 towards Woodstock. So they would have to cross the interstate, they'd have to. We had some major concerns with that. We know Highland Games is one of our busiest weekends. All of our officers are usually dedicated to a special detail, parking. We just, we told them right off the bat that we didn't think this was going to work in the current route that they were proposing. So they went back to their team, they rerouted, they're no longer going down Connector Road, they're no longer coming in out through the Hobo, they're no longer stopping at the flume. So essentially they will continue their relay race down, and they have permission from Whale's Tail to use a portion of their parking lot as their exchange point. They will continue down Route 3 and go through Woodstock. So after Carol and I and Chad sat down and kind of, mulled it over, we feel that we are willing to give them a chance. At least we made it very clear that, this is kind of a trial run. If they continue to do it on this weekend historically every year, that, it is one of our busiest weekends in town, but we feel that most of the concerns are alleviated if they stay on Route 3. Friday is usually the least busy of the days. So we're willing to give it a chance. So I just wanted to make the board aware of it. If you hear any grumblings, if any issues get presented, we're hoping, we want to encourage this race. We think it's a great, a great thing for the state and for the town of Lincoln, but we are cautious on how it's going to work out. I will say we are going to have a police detail at the entrance to Whale's Tail. We told them once we hear more from Loon and Highland Games and what their parking schematics are going to be, and the traffic patterns, that we may require an additional one, but one at the very least at the entrance to Whale's Tail. So that's kind of where we stand at the moment with that.
The Whale's Tail open at that point or is closed by that time?
No, the Whale's Tail is closed.
But
But
Loon
even-
uses it.
Loon
for
uses it
parking.
that we give the parking, but on Friday. I mean, typically on a Friday, there's 24 cars there.
Yeah.
At the most. I mean, it's
'Cause it is a bus
insignificant
pick-
amount.
It's a bus pickup stop, if I remember correctly.
It is. It's on Saturday where it's
Zoom.
completely filled. They'll fill it right up as much as they can before they move on, to other sites.
Right.
But Friday is pretty slow up there. And this race is starting early in the morning, right?
It starts, I think, at 5 a.m. They expect to be running through the town of Lincoln. I think they said from 12:30, because they start in staggered terms. It's not like you're going to get all 300 runners
Right,
within the first hour.
right.
So they expect the first set of runners to reach Lincoln at 12:30 in the afternoon, and they'll run probably, they said, until dusk. So I mean, it's definitely a good chunk of time.
Mhm.
But again, I think our major concerns was the traffic congestion at the highway, on the interstate,
Right.
the exit ramps. And obviously going down Connector Road, that intersection is hairy on a good day. So like I said, we're willing to give it a chance.
I don't see a big problem with that at all. Being on a Friday and being on Route 3. I mean, Route 3 is not that busy on that day.
No,
I mean, it's no more busy than a regular, just they did it today or something.
sure. And we did stress the importance of, we're in the heart of the White Mountain National Forest, making sure we protect our natural resources is important, the cleanup, the trash, all of that stuff. We expect the team to be responsible for that, and they have, confirmed that they have teams that go behind the runners and clean up, and they'll have porta potties, most likely at Whale's Tail at the exchange point. So the next exchange point after Whale's Tail is the White Mountain Race,
Racetrack,
the racetrack, yeah.
Speedway.
The Speedway, yeah, the White Mountain Speedway. So it's only about a 6-mile leg through
That's
town.
not that far over distance.
No, no, but they're not stopping at the Flume anymore. So I think they extended the leg on that end,
Okay.
on the starting end.
Okay.
You have year-to-date financials in your packet. No major concerns at this point. You will see we were able to make some of those changes to,
Yeah, I didn't get it printed, but I already read it online.
Yeah, I saw it on.
Saw it online.
Jane printed a copy up especially for you, Jack.
I did.
I have one. I'll give you, you can have mine. I got another copy.
I did look at it on.
No worries. Maybe they're sitting on my desk still, but, like I said, no major concerns at this
I
point.
didn't see
We're,
anything that was,
no, we're about 60% through the year, 58%. Most departments are within that, high 40s, 50s range. There obviously are some lines that go over, there are some lines that go under, but there wasn't anything that I, thought was a glaring, concern. I do have a couple more things. I'm gonna save the last one for the last.
Okay.
Because, NHUC this week already got there. The ladies' bath, we had scheduled to have the association, the Riverfront, is it Riverfront condos?
Yep.
Come in and discuss ladies' bath. Jane had reached out to Cindy Lloyd and Ryan Shaughnessy, was he on the email? I think, is that his name?
Yeah.
I think that's his name, yeah. They are gonna come in on the 31st instead. They said that there has been no major issues up to this point, but they don't know if that has been weather related,
well, yeah.
or if it's just that people are abiding by the parking sticker. And I do know that people are coming in and getting stickers, that they have received that. So even, up until this week, people are trying to do the right thing. But they said no major concerns at this point, but again, it could be weather related, so they'll touch base, come back in on the 31st. Speaking of the 31st, I am scheduled to be on vacation that week. It's also my daughter's birthday, so I don't plan on being here on that Monday, but I will be here on Tuesday to join the CIP committee to go over things for the CIP. So if the board was not comfortable, or if, I'm sure Jane can handle the agenda and all that stuff, because, she's a master at that, but if you wanted to hold a meeting where I was in attendance, I could do Tuesday if that worked better for you, but, again, that's up to you.
No, Tuesday's National Night Out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
I enjoy a vacation. I think it's fine. You do a pretty detailed town manager's report. I think we can live without you for one night.
Okay. I just wanted to throw it out there, just in case.
No. Enjoy your vacation. Enjoy your daughter's birthday.
Thank
We'll
you.
survive.
Okay.
Hey, Karina, this is Paul.
Yes.
Why are you doing the CIP too? Take your time off. You deserve it.
Well, because it's the rec. So
It doesn't matter. We can even, yeah, seriously.
I do appreciate it. I'll play it by ear.
I'll
Come
actually,
on. Okay.
on this one.
Someone else can step in for you, or I mean,
I'll
Jack's
go
there
to
anyway.
CIP.
Yeah,
I'll go to CIP
I mean-
on Tuesday. Take the day off.
yeah, seriously. I agree. I mean, I think, you should take the day off, Monday and Tuesday. It's your vacation.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, I'll try my best to not be here. Thank you. The last thing I have on my town manager's report is,
Wait, is everybody listening?
Yes.
Paul, come back on with your face. I want to see it when she announces this.
So late last Friday afternoon, I received a call from Annie Custer's office, and they were informed late Friday evening that the Federal House Appropriation Committee approved our $1 million grant for the new police station.
Wonderful.
So we will get those funds. come-
Great news.
Only $1 million?
Now we can add another couple of rooms for $7 million project.
Well, I don't, we knew that there were gonna be expenses that weren't included in the $6 million. Moving the radio
Radio,
tower,
Yeah.
certain things that weren't part of the original construction, where that we couldn't fit into the original $6 million for the construction. We knew that. And I just feel that this $1 million takes a little bit of the pressure off us to find, ways or raising it in the CIP or,
money.
because that's where it's gonna be. That's where it's gonna
CIP.
come from, CIP.
It sure makes this whole project a little more comfortable.
I agree. And so at the last point, we thought we had gotten here at the last time with the last House appropriations, but we failed at this stage. The Federal House Appropriation Committee is the one who denied us the last time. So now that we got that approval from last week, we are set in stone. We have to wait for the budget to pass, obviously. But she told us, Elizabeth from Annie Custer's office told us that the earliest we could get it is October. It's more likely to be early winter whenever the budget's passed, and then we'll have to go through the USDA application process and all that good stuff. But it is good news overall, I think.
Yeah, and we won't need it by this October.
No, we won't need it. No, absolutely not. We have the construction loan, we won't be spending that amount of money by then anyways. So it'll be more so just design purposes, and we'll be putting the stuff out to bid this fall. So yeah, good news.
Can I ask who made the application for the grant?
I did.
Who said that?
I did.
Well, I just want to congratulate you because we very seldom get a $1 million grant for anything. So, if you did all the work yourself, it certainly makes paying you every week worthwhile.
Well, I appreciate that, Paul. Thank you.
And that's a compliment. I meant that as a compliment. I really did, because it's nice to have somebody that can write grants for that kind of money and have it turn into something.
She can take July 31st Tuesday off.
That's right.
I've earned my day off.
There you go.
Thank you, Paul. That's all I have today.
All right. Did you have anything?
Oh, one thing, that sign on 112, the bike crossing,
Yes.
so it's still nothing there.
Oh, it hasn't been cleaned up yet? Okay. Because I did talk to Nate about it. It was gonna have,
Stuff, but
oh, they did,
it
did
needs
they trim the trees around it?
from some of it,
Okay.
still needs a sign there. I saw somebody trying to cross the other day and somebody whizzing by, not letting them cross. I'm just afraid somebody's gonna get into a serious accident.
Well, while we are on the topic of signage, I spoke with a resident last week who was talking about our crosswalks and whatnot, and she had suggested that in Littleton, I guess they spray paint on their sidewalks, something like stop, look, wave or something
Yeah.
like that. And she was like, would that be something that we, she thinks it's just another kind of reminder for the pedestrians that are crossing to wait until the, cars are stopped before they cross. I told her that I would, think about it, discuss it with Nate. I mean, I'm sure it's just another stencil that we could, I know that the highway guys do a lot in our
I
painting.
think the biggest issue with our sidewalks is that our crosswalks is that they don't look like crosswalks. You go everywhere, you drive around everywhere, and I just drove from New Hampshire to Arkansas to Florida. And from Arkansas to Florida, it's about 98% back roads. And all of the crosswalks are striped crosswalks. They're not solid green. I think the issue with our crosswalks is that they don't look like crosswalks.
I mean, that could be it. I mean,
I don't know. I think they're noticeable. I think the biggest problem with our crosswalks is people don't use those $30,000 lights that we put in each one.
I do every time.
What's
Whether I
that?
need to or not. I use them every time, whether I need to or not. And I live right there on Pleasant Street. So I'm going on those, walking on Main Street all the time.
As someone who rarely uses them because I don't walk downtown a lot, but as a driver, it seems like half the time people are crossing in front of me, those lights aren't blinking. They just walk out and.
OJ, they either don't use them. The pedestrians either don't use them, or when they do use them, a lot of people don't stop. I don't know what you're gonna do to take care of it, but you're right. I mean, it's a terrible thing. It's amazing nobody's been hurt, because I've seen people just barely escape trying to walk across when they pushed it. And then some people who have not pushed them and tried to walk across anyway. And then you got all the people who just cross no matter what. So I think it's society in general.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
suggestion. I said I would bring it up and, maybe something to look into in the future.
So the state of New Hampshire literally did a huge investigation, if you will, on our Main Street, and they redesigned all the crosswalks and all of that. I wonder if they would have any kind of suggestion on what to do to make them more visible. I mean, they're the ones that told us we had to have those $30,000 lights put up, and they took away. They redesigned. We have one less crosswalk, but the ones we do have are in a different places than they were, except for a couple of them. So I wonder if. I mean, I remember at the LG or the NHMA conference one year, they used the town of Lincoln's crosswalk as an example, the whole Main Street and crosswalks as the example in one of those, not classes, but in one of those rooms there. So I wonder if they may have a suggestions, also because it is a state road,
Oh, Jake, I just came back from Georgia, and they had something pretty neat. At every circular turn, at some crosswalks and stuff, what they did before it was they cut a whole bunch of lines all the way across the road. So you get like that, when you go over to the right side of the road and you get that little rumble strip type thing. But what they did was they cut lines all the way across the road. Now, I don't know if you can get the state to agree to it, but I'll tell you what, it warns you that something's coming. And at every intersection, before you get to a major intersection, you go across, there's there must be 10 or 15 cuts across the road. And
rumble strips.
Rumble strip. Yeah, but it's not really, it doesn't really rumble you that bad. It just kind of wakes you up and says, oh, I'm coming to something. So
Yep.
I don't know if we could get the state to do something like that, but I gotta tell you, when I was in Georgia, it reminds you every time you're coming to an intersection or a circular turnaround or a busy intersection, it does remind you of that. And it's right in the middle of cities. It's on rural roads. It's on everywhere. They do it everywhere. Just thought.
Don't think they got much snow down in Georgia.
Yeah, it's definitely a southern thing because they're all over the place down here as well. But it's worth the conversation because they are effective.
I mean, I can reach out to Jim McMahon and just say, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah,
Or,
good idea.
I mean, it's an email. I don't know if he'll have anything for us, but I
Right.
could try.
I say, I love that the stop, look, wave things up in Littleton. But I also think that would detract from our lights that we have. I think the lights are more effective, more noticeable. And I'd rather have them push the lights than depend on whatever we print on the crosswalk.
Sure.
Unless we press the button. But.
Okay.
All right, did you have anything,
Nothing else.
Tammy?
Yes, I had a couple of things. Where are we with the business park? Are we going to schedule some public hearings to discuss the deed restriction, or are we just going to go? What are we going to do there?
That was actually the one thing I was gonna bring up, but I'm glad you did. Obviously, I think everybody was at that planning board meeting. where
Right.
Brought up and, the general discussion seemed to be in favor of making it
Yeah.
a business park more than converting the use, but they were very open to changing the language in the deed restrictions. But again, agreed that should be a process that involves the public, especially the two current owners in there that are affected by the deed restrictions that are on their deed. To see if, make sure that they're in favor of it. So I would say that the next step would be a noticed public hearing on proposed changes to the deed restrictions. And I think the only deed restriction that anybody has talked about changing is that one about on-site employment.
Yeah,
And instead of that, just strictly saying this is not meant to be self-storage units. You know, the unattended full-time, but could certainly be used for, you know, any trades people that would use that as their, you know, their trade central location, even though their work is out in people's homes or condos or developments or whatever, offsite. I think that's the only change that we're looking to make.
but
So-
can we contact Jason and get the legal description that should be on the deed? And once we have that, then schedule a couple of meetings?
You mean legal description as in, like,
I
exact,
mean, everything that OJ just said shouldn't be on the deed.
okay.
To be honest,
Everything OJ just said, but in legal wording.
Okay,
all right,
so essentially, the main points of that is we're going to remove the employee on site,
yes,
okay? And then, but also add no self-storage units.
yes.
Yes.
Okay,
You can even tell them the goal of whatever wording he comes up with is to allow tradespeople forbid self-storage.
okay,
And it can be as blunt as that too.
Yeah, exactly. As long as he thinks that it will legally stand up.
And if we get that wording, we could have our first public hearing in August, really. Sure. And actually, we only need one. I mean, because actually, we could change the wording, but we're not gonna without a public hearing.
right.
But
Well,
there's no limit, like we have to have two and they have to be 14 days apart. There's none of that.
no, there is none of that. I mean, and essentially, you could,
Town council, this town council's right there.
you could always open the public hearing, and if there was a lot of discussion that you weren't going to get from everyone on that day, you could continue it day, you know?
Well, why don't we just schedule it then for August 14th? That gives us a month.
Okay.
We could do that. Sure.
One public hearing?
One public hearing. Yeah, include any new restrictions that the board would like to put on the unsold lots. I mean, the restrictions are, we restrict,
Forbid self-storage units.
right, but allow tradespeople.
Right.
So I think just asking him to
Yeah.
write up a,
That's what Jason said.
yeah,
Okay,
just write up the substitute language.
okay,
And we'll bring that to the August, what'd you say, 14th?
14, yeah. Okay, the other thing another thing I had was, the deadline, Chenard's deadline for his appeal was July 3rd. Did he file?
not that I have heard.
Okay, so where do we go from there?
I
And
will,
should we discuss this in non-public, or are we good discussing it in public?
I think it's, well, the fee schedule is already in place.
Right,
So I think, yes, I think it's probably better to discuss in non-public the next steps.
all right.
Okay,
So I think it
We'll
will
make that.
all,
and that was all I had. Well, I have another legal question, non-public.
Okay,
Wait,
I also, just have one more thing I forgot.
no, you said the $1 million is the end of your.
I know, I know, but now I'm not going
Go
to.
ahead.
Well, it's not terribly bad. So we received a concern from a property owner at the Village of Lone. So they're at the big Coolidge condos, 15-3 and 15-2 big Coolidge, that area. We issued a building permit last fall for the property owner to enclose their current concrete slab. essentially, it was following and it was consistent with other improvements that other condos had made in the association. Where they had, their concrete slab and they enclosed 2 walls to make it more of like a mud room per se. Whereas their entrance to their condo was no longer in the front, they made a door on the side. There seems to be some sort of neighborly dispute over the use of the walkway to access that. At the time, we looked at all the deeds, we looked at our building, our land use regulations, and there was nothing that would, I guess, justify our denial of the application, because they weren't going in the step backs, they were essentially just enclosing their own concrete slab, they were staying within their own footprint. They're within the PUD, they're within, but now there's a neighborly dispute over the access to the building. There is no new access, that entrance, that archway or open way has always been there. There's no new access other than they've put a door on it versus it just being open air. So we've tried to express that to the owners. We've also, the HOA has given approval for that construction, as there are many other units that are in that association that are identical to that. But we have received a complaint from the owner who wants help from the town to, I guess, essentially rescind our permit. I personally, don't feel as if we're in violation of anything, or is it the owner that did the enclosure is in violation of everything. We did specify on the permit that we are not granting, we're not real estate attorneys. We don't know how the walkways in the association works. We're not giving them access to put a step in. We're not doing anything. Essentially, the only thing they could do was enclose their current slab. And so I just wanted to make you all aware of it, that we're kind of getting dragged into what we believe to be a civil issue.
Sounds like it's a homeowners association and the individual that reside within the homeowners association. We have no control. I mean, yes, we issued a permit, but if they were in compliance with our ordinances, our setbacks, etc., then we should be out of the fray. If they want to sue us, let them, so be it. But I mean, I think their first step is to go against the homeowners association, say we want it down. If the homeowners association says no, then they take the next legal action they have to take.
Well,
That would be
that's
my-
essentially what's happening. The homeowners association, we got the approval letter from the homeowners association before we even issued the permit. We require that as part of the permitting process. But now the owner is again arguing with the homeowners association and the neighbor next door, and we're kind of getting dragged into it. But they asked if I would bring it to the board's attention, and I said I would. So
Thank you.
Again, if we did repeal it and make them tear it down, by what authorization can we do that?
I don't.
I mean, there's nothing in our rule. We don't just do that because the neighbor wants it. There's nothing in our
Right.
that would justify that. Would go to court and would lose.
Right.
So, yeah, no.
Sorry. I wanted to add that because
No,
I didn't tell them that I would,
We'll
but
bring it up. Or
yeah.
mention it.
Okay.
All right, then I'll open up for public participation if there's anything.
So Jay, I have one.
Jim first. Jim?
About the act, changing the regulations, stuff like that. You probably ought to put in the regulations that private contractor can build a building there. But no apartment of that. Because you'd wind up with a building like you got down here beside Kelly's Tattoo. Yeah, storage underneath, but he's got 4 apartments above it.
Yeah, it's
It's
residential is not, residential is not allowed in that zone.
Right,
So
so you probably ought to just stick that in,
it's already zoned that way.
right,
No residential.
But I think what Jim's saying is, let's
To put it-
emphasize it. In one, if we're gonna make some changes, let's emphasize that no live-in apartments will be allowed. This is not a residential zone, just so that somebody didn't say, oh, I didn't know that, or I thought I could build a sleeping quarters in case of an emergency up above.
I mean, typically that's done through zoning,
Right.
and not allowed in that zone.
Right.
It wouldn't hurt. to Make sure that they realize they can build a building for their storage unit. But nothing about it.
I think that's just something redundant.
It is, I mean, it would have to go before the planning board.
Right.
I understand what you're saying, but I think we're covered with that, with the zoning. Well, I mean, every other zone doesn't have the zoning laws in the deeds. That would be my, if we start doing that, then where do we end?
Right.
No. So, Paul, you had your hand up?
Yes, sir. On that Pemmy condos on Black Mountain Road issue, I want to thank Nate for all the work he's doing on it and trying to make it work. He's had a lot of time in it, but I do have a question because most of the water that's affecting that road is coming off of private residence. And it's coming onto a town road. Doesn't the town have some sort of regulations or something that they can fall back on and set all of this water that's coming off of private residences is not affecting the town road? I mean, so if you own a private residence, can you just let all your drainage go onto the town road?
Well, I think it would depend on whether when those properties were built and whether we had the stormwater management ordinance
Yeah,
in
well-
place and what the regulations were at the time.
Yeah, we do have regulations that prevent that. The problem is going back to things that were built in the 70s.
So according to Nate, and you know, when I was talking to him, he said that if the road was in and it was a private road prior to the buildings being developed, and obviously the road would have to be in before you could get any materials or contractors or anything to do the houses, then the town didn't have any liability for that. And it's not that I don't want to resolve the issue, because the issue needs to be resolved. I mean, because the water is running from pretty much, if you go up there, I'm sure Jack's seen it when he drives up, it comes down one residence's driveway and just travels all the way down the whole length of the lower Black Mountain Road to where Black Mountain Condos is. And then it crosses the road and goes into Black Mountain Condos down over their rock wall and into their parking area there. But if that one residence didn't have that water running down onto the road, you wouldn't even see what you're seeing now. It just seems like it's costing a lot of taxpayer dollars to take care of one resident's problem.
One single family home, Paul, is that what you're saying?
Pardon me?
One single family home? Or
Yeah,
like
one-
condo associate?
Yeah, if you go down, I don't know if you're familiar with Black Mountain Road, Jack knows where it is. So lower Black Mountain Road, at the exit of Riverglade, you have Frank and Jean Bill on the right-hand side, so a little comes in there. And then the one before them, that's a real steep driveway on the right. If you went there yesterday, and it's still going to today, it comes right down over that road. They put in this little rock swale. It's coming down over that. It's going down, and the pipe that's there that goes down over Penny condos can't handle it. So then it continues down the road and runs all the way down the road until it reaches Black Mountain Condos and goes down all the way across the road at Black Mountain Condos and down into their parking lot. It just seems, it just seems like poor Nate is working so hard to try and take care of this because he wants it off his back, but there's issues there with other driveways putting water on there, and I think that, you know, and all indifference to all taxpayers, maybe it should be all taxpayer cost. I know that the developers paid some money, the landing, but I mean, I gotta tell you, I think there's other people that have some responsibility here.
Well, I thought that Nate had said that he was gonna crown the road and put a ditch up as you're traveling east onto the right-hand side of that, so it would be a swale in there and take some of that. That's what I thought he had initially said. Maybe he told you something different.
Well, no, I mean, and maybe that's what he's gonna do. I don't know. I know they said he's gonna work from Gessner's back towards Riverglade and try and get that section squared away, and hopefully that would square away some of the lower part. But when when Dig Safe came up, they only dig safe from about where Gessner's house is up to, actually up to where Sunset is, I think. But I don't know, I just think that, I mean, some of the problem is it's not the towns to pay for. I think, that, people who contribute a lot of water onto a town road have some responsibility somewhere, I would think.
I wouldn't mind getting Nate's input.
Yeah, I mean, I can
I'm
talk to Nate
familiar with it.
about it.
I was under the impression that the culvert that went under the road,
Right,
Mhm.
was gonna be replaced as part of the,
I think that was.
or was it already replaced?
Didn't they replace that culvert, Paul?
I know they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, they replaced the one at Gessner's and the one between Gessner's and Mahoney's. I think those two got replaced. There's
Yeah.
one that goes across the road at the bottom of the steep driveway. I can't remember their name for the life of me. And it goes across to Pemmy Condos. And that's that one that has that 45-degree bend. I've
Right.
never seen- Yeah, that, yeah, it's by O'Brien's.
That's O'Brien's.
Yeah, yeah, so where it goes across the road there, that's the one that doesn't take the water, and then from there, it just keeps running down in front of Gessner's. There's a, excuse me, there's a new culvert that they put in, I think, last year at Gessner's, but it doesn't run in there. Maybe, I'm sure Nate has a plan, but it's, I gotta tell you, I think there's a lot of water coming from private residences onto that road that are causing the problem. I mean, and I think Nate's being made to say, take the heat because, they're saying, oh, it's a town problem because you're not taking care of our water. And I don't know, if I started putting a bunch of water out onto the town road, you guys probably come to me and say, hey, you can't do that. I would think, but I'm glad that you're looking at it. I didn't see any work going on today, and I don't know who's gonna be doing the work. Do you have any idea who's doing the work for the co-op?
No, because the impression I was under was that North Point or the Northeast, whatever the company was before, but obviously that wasn't accurate.
Yeah, when I talked to Nate, he told me that same thing. And I would hope you wouldn't use them, because I gotta tell you, all you gotta do is drive through Westwood and see what they did. Some of the ditches that they left are higher than the road. I mean, they dug down through the ditches, and when they put the stone in, the stone's higher than the road, so when we get some real rains like we've been getting, it's only gonna take a little while to fill in that stone with that sediment, and then it's just gonna be right into the road. I don't know why there wasn't any oversight there from Loon or whoever owns that, but it wasn't a great job, I can tell you that.
No, I'll talk to Nate and see what his plan is.
Yeah.
And,
Give an update.
Okay.
He's working hard on it. He really is.
well, and Nate has been working hard on everything. I'll say this, the amount of rain we've had, the water, they're struggling right now. They're struggling to make clean water. They're struggling over at the lagoons. They are working. They're working hard this summer. So,
They're doing a major project over the lagoons. I don't know, I mean, because it hasn't snowed this year, everybody forgets that we have sewer lagoons. There's a major,
a major project
Right.
going on.
Not only
Multiple
expensive,
projects going
not
on.
only expensive,
Right.
but difficult in execution. Is that still moving along okay?
Oh, yep, everything's still going.
Is the rain like slowed them?
The rain hasn't seemed to slow them down. I mean, it makes it uncomfortable, most likely for them, and not a pleasant working experience, but they've been working, those guys have been working hard. Like I said, the amount of rain we've got, just making clean water, keeping the water flowing throughout town, the sewer lagoons, making sure that, we have the pumps moving, they've been working hard this summer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, all the smaller projects are kind of falling to the wayside because we have these major projects that are taking primary,
I mean, that's several weeks of
yes,
full time.
full time, all hands on deck. He's been one man down for almost a year.
Yeah.
So,
And I can tell you that lower Black Mountain Road would not be an issue if there was no water coming down from O'Brien's or from Frank and Jean Bills from there, because that's where all the water's coming from. From Gessner's down, there's very minimal water. But from O'Brien's and Frank and Jean Bills, actually it's just Jean Bill now, but that's where all of that water is coming from. That's causing all of that problem.
When were those homes built?
Pardon me?
Do we know when those homes were built?
Oh my goodness, you're testing me now. Yeah, I don't know.
Not when we had stormwater management in place, I assume.
No, definitely prior to stormwater management.
Okay,
But the roads were built by private. Loon built the roads and they sold off the properties, and Nate was saying something about, it's really not a town issue because that, it was all private issue at that point, And then when the town, I don't know how it all got to be a town's bailiwick, but I mean, there's some serious water coming off of private properties that are affecting that whole situation.
All right.
Anyway, thanks.
Yep,
Nate's doing a great job. Nate's doing a great job with it.
Yes, thank you. Tammy, do you have something?
Yeah, I have about 5 things. You guys can be patient with me. And all that I'm gonna say throughout this whole thing is my opinion, based on provable facts or concerns. One thing that's really getting me, and I just sent you some pictures, Jack, is if you go down Pollard Road in front of my house, 229 Pollard Road or 233, which I believe is my parents' house, you will find, and I think Deb and Jim can attest to this, the road is all broken up. We have Chet West recently in his wheelchair going out up and down with his wheelchair. Then he moves on his own with a little teeny wheel in the front. The road was all broken up. We have 2 people from Lincoln Green in those motorized scooters. We have Mr. Bossy and his motorized scooters. They're being respectful of the people on the sidewalk, not to get on it because they can't get off it. And if any of them wipe out and there's nobody around to help them, I'm concerned. If you went and physically looked at it yourself, you would see why I'm concerned. Motorcycles come around that corner. Where my house is. It's a danger. It's a danger. I really wish the town would do something just to hot top them to fill them in so nobody wipes out. And then you got little children on bicycles also. So that was the most important thing I was worried about is the handicap and the elderly. As I've said before, so going on to the next step, benches. Have you guys decided yes, no, you're getting them, you're not getting them? I see Tammy listen to what I said and put it on Arnold's lawn, and
It looks nice.
it does look very nice. But I'm just concerned to see if you guys are moving with it or you're not moving with it.
we did select an
Date
addition.
is audited. I think
You did tell me that, but I'm just wondering about, did you find out on East Spur, like across from Jim's? Where Rudy Genet is it permittable or not permittable to have one there also? I know in the past Tammy had said she didn't think it was possible because there was no sidewalk there. But
I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that we do have a bench on order, but with Nate's.
Good.
We had to put it on a credit card. We had to wait till we paid off the balance on the month before, so it did take us a little while to get it on, but we do have one on order. We picked one out. We just haven't received it or set it up yet, and I don't think we picked the exact location.
Right.
Can I butt in for 1 second? I did talk to Nate about this, and we have more town right away on that East Spur Road than we do in front of the houses on Pollard Road. So having it on that East Spur is probably going to be better. Then it's in the towns right away. It's covered by the town, all that good stuff. So that's what Nate was going to work on, was try to find a spot along that East Spur Road where he could put it, and not just put it back and have people trudging through the grass or whatever, but to put maybe like Arnold did and put some bark mulch or something down with it. So Nate had already talked about that. He was just waiting for the bench to come in before he made the final decision.
All right, well, I'm
And
more
then
than,
with Pollard Road, with the paving of Pollard Road, I talked to Nate about that as well. And he, although it's not up for overlay until 2027, he recognizes and knows that it's an issue, and he wants to cut out that spot and fill it when he does his paving this year, because he's been cold patching it and it doesn't last long. So it's on his radar. It is going to get it done. And hopefully when he does his paving this year, which he's trying to put it off as long as he can and put everything all together into one, go around for a few days and do everything that needs to be done. So I know he's got the back roads, School and Church Street, I think are due this year, but he needs to bring the collars up on the sewer manholes before that gets paved. So he's got some work to do prior to paving, but it is on his list this year.
okay, because it is very highly traveled by the handicap and the elderly. with those
Absolutely.
scooters.
It's a nightmare.
Oh, I know. I watch people with trailers right now and everything's bouncing off the trailers. Okay, so, now I had asked at a prior meeting back in March, or mentioned in prior meeting in March. At my parents' driveway, when you come off East Spur onto Connector, the water will fill up the main entrance, driveway. Where the culvert was put in back when Bill Willie was there. I don't know if you've noticed or not, Jim, it kind of like lifts up above where the culvert is. So it pools right there, but if we get, like we had the other night, I took one of the dogs out, we were in 4 inches of water. I mean, I loved it, it was warm, it was calm and peaceful, so. But come winter time, it's gonna be glare ice again going in my driveway. And if we get downpour in the winter, which we've been known to do, it's gonna be right on that corner, it's gonna be all ice too. So it's, in my opinion, an easy fix just to lower the gravel a little bit on top of that culvert, so it can actually go down into those berms that you guys made on the side of the road. It's not like major digging out or anything that I can see. So that was another one of my questions. Okay, and on this one, Tammy, I've talked to you in private here before on this. I'm not picking on you, so please do not take it personal. Arnold's Garage. My daughter works at Clark's again. I almost took off somebody coming out of their door on the breakdown lane heading towards North Woodstock. Because they opened up the door and my car's right there. They're parking on the breakdown lane on both sides. Last time, way back when Butch was here, it's probably 5-6 years ago that I had brought this up with Tammy privately out of respect. She said John doesn't listen to her. That's back then, I don't know about now, but back then supposedly it was permitted for 10 cars to be parked at the garage. Now you can count sometimes 10 to 12 cars on each side of the road, never mind the 2 or 3 Ram trucks that are there. So I find it a hazard, a health hazard, and I know it's a state road, but I'm going to the town also to see if they can do something about it. You're forcing people with strollers out the road, bicycles out the road. Now you have this foot race that's coming through. Busy time, that road, if it is busy for some reason, those people are gonna be forced out into the road. Is there something we can do to stop the cluster and the dangers? It is a hazard. It is a hazard, and I'm not picking on anybody. John's helped me out a lot. I've always shown Tammy respect. And the next one she's gonna hate me for, and I'm still not picking on her. It's just issues that are happening right now. Okay. So that was another major concern, the elderly and the safety at arms. Okay, next one. Town has an ordinance for fireworks. On the 2nd of July. It's nobody's fault. We have a dog that was attacked by a pit bull. 2 weeks later, Tammy let her son's dogs out. They came up. My dog sees a dog now, it climbs up my legs. Thunder scares her. A lot of dogs go through this. It's nothing to do with anybody. It's just my dog. So I called up on the 2nd of July to see if Arnold had a permit for the fireworks. If he did, I suck it up, my dog deals with it. If he didn't, I asked if they would have it stopped. I walked over to do my mother's eye drops. I could feel the sidewalk around my neck. By the time I came back, almost a half an hour later, they were almost done with it. My house was shaken. My dog was ballistic. We now put her in a room with as much noise as we can because there's been retaliation. So I called down to the PD. They said I'd have to call the fire department. Called the fire chief. He said no permit was issued. So the PD ended up sending out the fire trucks to investigate to see if there was a permit. Luckily, the chief and others, I don't know exactly which ones, had the fire department stand down. That would have been pretty costly if dispatch had got what they said and sent out fire trucks and personnel. So luckily they stood down. I don't know who. I believe it was Mike Wheaton went and spoke to Arnold. Don't know what was said. After they went back to the fire department, just long enough to be out of sight, an FU round went off. Called up dispatch. Nope. Fire permit still was not issued. The next night, about taking in my bird feeders. 28 minutes after 5, Arnold just gets home. After that, it's bing, bang, boom. And they weren't what I would consider legal fireworks. They were pretty loud rounds of mortar. I asked my husband because he's more knowledgeable about that. I had somebody almost tell me that it could be acetylene bombs homemade also. There was debris all across the road. Fire personnel even told me that pretty much the first night was an FU round after they had left. So the second night was retaliation again. This coming Sunday night, or morning, I should say, 12:15 in the morning. Tenants, my 88-year-old mother, who wakes up on a dime because my father's been gone almost 4 years the end of this month. She's on pins and needles anyway. She gets woken up out of a sound sleep from this huge blast. We have our surveillance cameras. Had I been home early enough today, it would have been on recorded for you guys to see. We saw somebody run across the road, grab their stuff, run back right back to Arnold's again. 15 after 12 in the morning. Deb and Jim probably heard it. Schleifer's probably heard it. Everybody, my tenants told me, what the hell was that noise? My mother said, did the transformer blow on the power line? You know, well, squirrels aren't running on the poles at 12:15 in the morning. So I would like something to be done about it. On the ordinance, first offense, you get a warning. Second offense, $250 fine. Third offense, $500 fine, no permit issued. Not one permit was issued. And there's nothing against you, Tammy, please don't take it that way. He needs to be held accountable, just like Jim, Deb, me, any of us in this room. And I would like something done about it. You know, we hear squealing of tires, that's kids play. But to me, this is direct immaturity and lack of self-control. There's been the Ham Jeanette thing going on way prior to my life. I have no issues with the Hams. Arnold's young. We all have that attitude. I had that attitude. I still have that attitude sometimes, but I contain it. I just ask that you guys would do something about it. You know, my dog, I'll deal with her. It's a fact of life. If Arnold had a permit, I have to suck it up. It's just a fact of life. But you got the bed and breakfast right beside, which is Lunch Point now, I think, Lunch View, Lunch Point. You got bed and breakfast, Airbnbs right beside me. You have my 3 tenants. You have people on Mansion Hill. The lady that has the Airbnb, the old convent house and stuff, that area. How many times has she been told she's gonna get fined if she doesn't keep the noise down? And she's finally, everybody's, you know, containing to that. Now we have Arnold. doing as he damn well pleases. And why? Because I called and asked if he had a permit, that's spiteful in my opinion. I just would like something done about it. And my dad was in the political field for 29 years. Never once did I hide behind him. Never once did I ask him to get my butt out of trouble. Never once did I ask him to cover up for me. And I'm not saying he's figuring he's gonna get out of it because his mom's in the political field, but what holds for one holds for the other. And I don't want to see it go on. I wish you guys would do something about that. If you're gonna have an ordinance, I would like to see it pursued. And if for some reason this continues, I'm gonna be pushing and pushing and pushing to see if the only fireworks allowed in this town are the town fireworks. Because it's out of control. It's out of control. They weren't the average bottle rocket sparklers. When they shake the sidewalk, they shake my house. That's heavy duty. And if you look at the ordinance, things aren't supposed to be stored either, and they're only supposed to be used at the permitted time. So what's good for one is good for the other. If you want us to follow the laws, everybody has to follow the laws. I just wish you would do something about that. And again, Tammy, I've always shown you the deepest respect. It's nothing personally against you, but you gotta love thy neighbor and not hate the neighbor. And I don't want to hate the neighbor. So please, if you guys would all look into this, I greatly appreciate it.
Can I just ask, have you called the police?
I called the police the first time. And is it Schneider?
The police are the one that enforce the ordinance, not we.
Right.
The Board of Selectmen makes an ordinance so that the police can enforce it. The Board of Selectmen cannot enforce it.
Well, let me tell you something right now. When I called, I could hear Tanya Schneider's voice. And then when I called back again, she was perturbed that I called back again. I have my own opinion why, and I just left it alone. And I asked her if a permit was issued again. She said, no, it hadn't been. I said, thank you. You gave me all the information I needed. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Listen to the recording. You'll see it's exactly what I said. But the police department has a hell of a lot more important things to do than worry about me calling on fireworks. And I'm not gonna keep on calling and nagging them. You guys, or you didn't sign it, but I believe it was Jane Lubrick and OJ that signed it on the 15th of April in 2019. The ordinance. And if there's gonna be an ordinance, it has to be followed through. And I called the fire chief and I asked him, and no, absolutely no fire permit had been issued. So, and again, I'm not picking on you, I'm not picking on Arnold, except for he happens to be the neighbor doing it at this time. If it were anybody else, even my dad when he was alive, I'd still be calling on him for the same reasons. So,
Again, the police are the ones that enforce the ordinances. The selectmen cannot enforce an ordinance.
but when dispatch sends out the fire department for an investigation to see, that's pretty sad. And could be pretty costly. So. You look at it how you want to. I'm not gonna be a thorn in the police department's side when they have much better things to do. So
All right, well,
that's what I have to say.
thank you for bringing those issues to us. I think some of them are easily solvable and we'll get on those, or they're already scheduled to be dealt with. You know, I know the fireworks, every year we have complaints. Almost all of them come from people who don't have permits and do them every year.
4th of July night, didn't hear Pete,
Well,
didn't hear Pete.
there's people who do them multiple nights in that whole week.
I was
but-
gonna say, I got complaints on the 5th, so I know that.
Yeah, and we know
Where they come
one
from.
neighborhood that. You know, you can't get a permit because you don't have this
Space, the 50
space to
feet.
do it, there's a requirement. And. I mean, some of the loudest fireworks in town come from that neighborhood, but by the time the police show up, no one did it, nope, don't know, we didn't hear anything. It's not an easy ordinance to enforce, you know,
The very last cameras don't lie.
so,
all I gotta say.
All right, well, again, we will pass it on to the enforcers of that and make sure that, you know, maybe they can have an eye out for that next year.
And if it happens anymore this year, I'll be a habitual offender down to the police department calling. them.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think, Tammy, that's what has to happen, you know, unfortunately. Like you said, there's the warning and then there's the first offense I know you don't want to be a thorn in the PD side, but I think if you want some traction, you might have you might have to call them again and call them again.
You
And
know, I'm all for everybody having fun, enjoying
yeah,
life. But in this instant, if we're abiding by the law, everybody should be abiding by the law. And this wasn't just having fun, it was more, I'm gonna piss her off because she just called me blank about me. Plain and simple. But in my opinion, it's pure ignorance to wake up all your neighbors just to do that blast at 12:15 in the morning. And when you're waking up every single neighbor and my 88-year-old mother. Airbnbs, you think they come on vacation to listen to that? No,
I mean, we're not disputing that
that's just
at
not
all.
That's immaturity.
Yeah, and this year was good up my way, but we've had that before too.
Yep.
You know,
But I think too, Tammy, thank you for bringing it to our attention. When they're infringing upon your rights for peaceful enjoyment, then it's documented by the police, and they're the ones that have the enforcing powers to take the action. So I think you're not being thorn in their side. That's what they're getting paid for, to enforce all laws, all ordinances of the town, no matter how simple you may think it be. We don't put an ordinance out and say, the hell with it, it's gonna go in the bottom of the barrel. We
Right.
enforce it because it's causing an issue somewhere. So I'd keep on the police, and document it. And if you have to have a meeting with the chief and just say, I don't feel as a citizen I'm being served.
I just, they have a lot more important things to do, is my feeling, but I am going to. from here on out.
no, their most important things to do is enforce the law.
Right.
And they can't do that effectively without assistance from people who observe acts and then say, oh, I don't want to bother the police.
Yeah,
You see
You know-
something, say something.
Really?
may I say one more thing?
Yeah,
Just, that's me, I was looking at the town's website. I love the people that are on the website, it's fine to leave it there, but we haven't had Deanna or Pat McTeague or Butch here. It would be nice to see fresh faces added to that website. Maybe you guys could put your picture out there, it'd be nice.
oh, you mean like actual photos?
Yeah.
Oh,
There's a picture of Butch and I think it was Gemma Perry. On the, what was it, Tammy, 100-year-old?
I think it was Rita Tamalona. She was the oldest citizen at the time. There's also, I think there's one on there of
Perry, but I'm not sure.
Helen's mom.
But yeah, it'd just be nice to see current people, so we know that's, I mean, I know you're the current board and stuff, but it'd just be nice to see Karina there, not Butch. Or Butch would be there, but.
what's she saying?
Guys, some credit. But that's just my little pet peeve. I looked at it, couldn't find the minutes last night, but this morning they were put online, so I got to see the minutes. Knew you're having a meeting, so. Okay,
all right,
but you guys. can go
thank
home.
you.
So, thank you guys for listening.
All right, we need to talk about,
2 non-publics,
okay,
legal and
personnel.
yes.
I'll make the motion to go into non-public for a personnel issue and a legal issue.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Have a good
Thank you.
night. Good night,
Good
Tam.
night.
Close the door.
Please.
Okay, everybody.
Yeah, so just stop recording. Up top, yep.